And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everybody, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today we're going to take a look at a self-published game, not meaning that I published it, but a game published by a man named Walter Sharrow. This game is called Cursed, and it comes in this awesome bag, and this is going to be a bluffing and betting game between a group of people. So it plays 3 to 8, and every round one player will be the monster, and everybody else will be the villagers. And the monsters and the villagers will have a battle, but during that battle they're going to be bluffing and betting their life points to see who can best try and earn more life from the other players, or, in the case of the villagers, take life away from the monster. And after that round, play will pass to the next player, who will then be the monster, and everyone else will be playing against them. The game is a lot, in similar ways, or in some ways, like Liar's Dice, where everybody's rolling their dice and bluffing, but in this case, the only player whose information is hidden is the monster each turn. So real quick, why don't we take a look at what you get inside of this bag, and how the game plays, and then we'll come back here and we'll get my final opinions on Cursed. So here you can see the components for Cursed, or at least most of them. One of them is covered by this bag, but I did want to mention the nice cloth bag that the game comes in. The whole game fits in here. It's very well made, feels great, and just very nice way to hold all of the components. So that's the start. Now the rest of the components are here as well. You can see that we have this board here with a monster in the middle and then an area for each of the players on the outside. So this will have 8 player areas on the outside, this green monster area in the middle, and then all of these skull areas here, which are where you're basically going to ante up or place your starting bid at the start of the round. In addition to that, you'll see we have 2 metal cups. We have a larger metal cup, which is going to be used for hiding the monster player's dice roll, and we have a smaller metal cup, which will actually be called the Void. It's going to hold tokens that the monster loses throughout betting and can occasionally be claimed by a player. We also have a set of green dice, which are going to be the monster dice, and we have some blue dice, which each player will have 1 blue die. The game plays 3 to 8 players, so if there's 3 players, there'll be 3 blue dice. If there's 8 players, there'll be 8 blue dice. Likewise, you're going to have up to 7 green dice, which is always the number of players minus 1, because 1 player each round will be the monster. So let's say that we have a 6-player game. So there's going to be 6 of these blue dice in play. Each player will have 1, and there's going to be 5 of the green dice in play. The rest of those dice, well, you won't need for this game, but each player will have their own blue dice, and let's say they're sitting at these positions here. And the monster is going to be one of these players. So one of these players will, instead of rolling their blue die on the turn, which is called a villager die, they're going to roll the monster dice. Now, in addition to their die, each player is going to have some life, somewhere between 9 and 12 life. That's in the form of these tokens. These tokens are life tokens, and if you run out of life tokens, you are out of the game. So it's important to be careful with what you do with your life tokens. In addition to that, each player is going to get 3 cards from this deck, which is called a ward deck. And the cards in this deck are of several types. There are monster cards, which are going to add to the monster's total. If you're the monster for the round, you can play this card to add 3 to your total, for example. Or here's one that adds 2 to your total. There are also going to be villager cards, which instead of showing monstrous tentacles, show swords. So these are villager cards that can add 3 to the villager's total for the round. And there are going to be some cards that have special effects. For example, you suffer no losses this round if you've played this one. Even if you lose the round, you won't lose any life tokens. Or this one has here, if a villager dies this round, revive them and give them 3 tokens. So this is a way to keep somebody from falling out of the game. So you're going to get 3 cards at the beginning, and everyone will have 3 cards. At this point, we're ready to start. And the monster, everybody's going to ante up a token. So since we have all these players, they'd all have their own life tokens. Everyone's going to place a token on the red skull area of the board, including the monster. So this token is up for grabs. The losers will get to lose their tokens, and the winners will obviously keep their tokens. At this point, the monster, let's say it's this player here, is going to roll all of his dice, and the villagers are each going to roll their die. Now, the monster will keep his dice secret. All of the villagers will roll their dice, and they'll be public information. So we'll see here that, let's just roll them real quick. Who cares? But we have these values. So we have 10, 3, 15, 28, and this die is not in play because that's the monster player. So the villagers have 28 showing. And the monster knows secretly what he has showing. So he would look at his dice and he would add them all up, and he'd figure out what his number is. And if he feels confident that his number is better than the other players, he's going to want to try and wager that he's going to beat them. However, before he gets to that step, the monster is going to go, and everybody has a chance to play one of their cards from their hands. So at this point, you can go, okay, maybe the monster's confident he's winning, but he'd like to solidify it a little bit more. So he decides to play his 3 ward card, and he's going to play it down under here to show that it's currently in play. And each other player would have the chance of doing this. So maybe this player here thinks, okay, our score is good, but it's not quite good enough. I'm going to place a 4 card out. And he would put that down under there. And he'd say, well, now that's going to add 4 to our score. And other players would have the chance to do the same. They could play specialized cards, the one that have special effects. They could play cards that are for the villagers if they're villagers, or that add to the monster if they're the monsters. After this, you're going to go on to what is called the battle. And during the battle, the monster may use their life tokens to place bets, or essentially to try and scare off the villagers from continuing. And when he does this, he's going to take tokens from his life pool, so he'd have his own life pool of 8 tokens now, 2, 4, 6. He has 8 remaining because 1 is on the ante. He can place tokens in the center of this table, which is essentially saying, okay, I am so confident that I'm willing to bet 2 of my life that I can beat you with what I've rolled here. And the other players would have to, between them, match this number by placing tokens from their life into their blue areas. So maybe this player is willing to place 1, and this player over here is willing to bet 1 of their life. And now they've matched. And the monster can continue on. He can say, well, if you're willing to do 2, are you willing to do 3? And this is where the bluffing aspect of this game comes in. You're going to want to try and either hope that you have the best hand and actually, believe that you can win it, or try and scare the other players off by betting in a way that they're not willing to match, so that they'll leave. So play will keep on in this manner, with the players matching the monster bidding more, until either the players decide they don't want to match anymore, in which case the players flee and the monster wins the round, or the monster decides not to pay anymore to the center of the table, and everybody is equal out. If that happens, you'll move on, and you will reveal everything that's kind of secret right now. So the monster would reveal his dice, and the players would all reveal the cards they played. So we'll flip this card over, and we see that this villager played a 4. Well, the villagers have 13, 15, 28, plus 4 is 32. And the monster reveals his dice, and he started at 35, so he was in pretty good shape, but he decided to solidify that against some cards by playing a 3. So he has 38, and the monster has won this battle. At this point, the monster would be able to take all of the tokens on the board and add them to his own health supply. So all of this stuff that's been anteed, the stuff that's been bet, and the stuff that's been played to match the bet of the monster becomes the monster's life, and that player has just advanced themselves significantly in the game. If the result had been the reverse and the players have won, the monster would lose all of his tokens, but the players would gain nothing. They only get to keep what they bet. So, for example, if the monster had lost, all of these tokens here, these 4, the 3 that he bet, and the 1 that he had to ante, are going to go into the void here. And these tokens are basically out of the game, but there are cards in this deck that can claim the void. So if the void gets really large, a player can play that card and hopefully get those tokens back. The players who were betting in this would take their tokens back from their betting area, and everyone would again start up by anteing again. But before they do that, you're going to have a chance to buy more cards. You start out with 3 in the game, but cards are never free, except for at the start. And so you can pay 1 life as many times as you like to buy more cards from the top of this deck. And paying that life, of course, is going to remove you from being, leading the game, or may at least be a detriment to you, unless you're that monster who, of course, just got a whole bunch of tokens from winning the round. But you can buy as many cards as you want so long as you have at least 1 life left. You can never pay your last life for a card. And then you would start the next round. And of course the goal here is to be the last player with tokens. If it comes down to a situation where there's only 1 villager and the monster alive, the monster automatically wins ties. If it comes down to a situation where you have to pass the monster and it ends up with 1 player out and there's 3 players left, the monster will of course win by devouring a player. And just basically it's always in the monster's favor. So if there's ever a tie, the monster's going to win that. However, if you can be the last player in the game by having the only person to have tokens left, you will be the winner. So you're going to keep on in this manner, spending your life tokens to buy more cards, trying to bluff your opponents into betting when it's to their disadvantage, and whoever manages to best outsmart and outplay and outroll their opponents will be the winner. Now, let me just go through a couple of the special cards that are here. You'll see that we have some that are like, if you're killed this round, you can revive and get 5 tokens. Obviously, you want to hold on to that until you're almost out, and you think you might lose. You have things like discard all played cards this round. This is probably good if you're the monster, and your roll's not particularly good, but you're trying to bluff your way into winning, and if it comes to the situation where you have to actually play, and players have played cards against you, that would be a good one to have out. You can also do things like claim any one previously used card from the pile. So as people go through cards, you can go ahead and grab one that you think is particularly useful for you in the future and have it to play later. So that's the game of Cursed. Why don't we go see what my final opinion is on it? Well, there you have it. That is Cursed. So let's start with the components of the game. The components of the game, especially for a self-published game, are superb. The craftsmanship in the bag, the craftsmanship in the board, the quality of the cards, even the metal cups, everything is fantastically made. The game itself is pretty good. It's a very light game. Let me get that right out of the way. It's a very bluff-heavy and dice-rolling heavy game. So there's going to be a lot of luck involved, but there's a lot of strategy insofar as trying to convince other players, when you're the monster, that you have better dice than you do. And so far as being the villagers, trying to sense through that bluffing and kind of make the right call in terms of either running away, trying to save your tokens, or trying to shore up and get the points you need in order to beat the monster if indeed he is bluffing. So there's that aspect to it. You can play this game with anybody almost. We played the game, one of the games we played, with a 6-year-old. Now the reading was a little bit intensive for him, but of course he was a bright 6-year-old. He was able to pick it all up and sound everything out. And the cards that don't have too many words on them are of course very easy to understand because they have the symbols of monster or villager, and they have the numbers on them which are very easy to see and read. So through all of that, I think the added card play that you don't have in Liar's Dice, the wonderful components, and the ease of gameplay is going to make this a game that's accessible to a lot of people. It's fun to play, especially with more people. The more people you have, the better it's going to be, because you have more of this bluffing and negotiation going on between the players. So I'd look more towards the 8 range, maybe 6 to 8, even 5 to 8 than the 3 or 4 range, because it's just not going to be that exciting and long of a game. But if you're looking for a lighter dice-rolling bluffing game akin to Liar's Dice, or even things like Zombie Dice or Cthulhu Dice, take a look at Cursed. There's not many of them out there, but you certainly can't beat the production quality and the support you can give to a small publisher.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.